What is up, and welcome to another episode of the Drop Step Podcast. I am once again your host, Dylan Soto, and I got a ton of topics on the agenda today, but where better to start than the NBA Cup, where the Oklahoma City Thunder, 24-1 up to this point, fall to the upstart San Antonio Spurs, who receive Victor Wembanyama back in his first game back from a calf strain, in which he is coming off a minutes restriction, and then also coming off interviews saying that he's the best player in the world when he's on the court, and talking shit about Chet and talking shit about OKC. What an unbelievable matchup for these teams to be meeting up in the Cup semifinal. It is truly the birth of a rivalry in the NBA, which I don't know if we've had a real rivalry in the NBA between two top end teams that are like legitimate contenders since Warriors Cavs. I think you could throw the Grizzlies Warriors runs in there, but that I think this is pretty much about it. Maybe Mavericks versus Suns, maybe Mavs Clippers, maybe Mavs Timberwolves versus Luka versus Rudy. But today the only team I want to talk about is the San Antonio Spurs, because they absolutely showed that they could beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you look at the score and it says 2-point victory. The Spurs missed so many threes in the first half that they could have been up 20 at half, and I wouldn't have been surprised if half their threes fall in the first half. They were not able to hit threes, or they just stayed with the Thunder the whole game. And I wrote it down in my notes watching this game that the Thunder play their game for 48 straight minutes, and it's can you beat them after that? It's not about the runs that you go on in the first and the second quarter. OKC is going to remain the same, and if they can stay in these games, they're most likely going to win them, or they're going to give Shea a chance to win it in the fourth quarter, and they tried to do that tonight, and one man made a stop to all of that. Obviously, not a didn't get confirmation till about a day or two before that Wembanyama would be playing in this game in Vegas, and then we didn't hear it till right before the tip-off that Wembanyama was coming off the bench and was going to be on a minutes restriction. Obviously implied minutes restriction coming back from calf strain, but off the bench was not something that any of us had in mind. And then they were struggling with no Wemby. He didn't play the whole first quarter. They go down 30-21 after, or 31-20 after the first quarter, and they just kind of looked a little off. They weren't hitting threes. Harrison Barnes has missed a couple. Devin Vassell missed a couple. They couldn't really just find their flow. They were kind of picking at Cornette at times. They were putting him in actions, and they just kind of ran at Cornette, but the momentum fully shifted as soon as Wemby came in. Second quarter, I just have it written down. Second quarter, Wemby entrance gave the Spurs confidence to attack defensively and run, which was so obvious that Fox, Castle, Champagnie, all the guys on the perimeter just felt his presence behind them and felt like they could be more confident against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Wemby didn't come in immediately starting hitting buckets, but it was offensive rebounds. His presence was felt down low. In the 5 minutes that he played in the second quarter, he was plus 20. He got them all the way back and then basically tied the game at halftime. He was plus 20 in 5 minutes. It's genuinely a massive impact. And I've just said this ever since I've saw the guy, that the way I'm going to talk about this guy is how people in the past talked about Wilt and Kareem. Like, he is otherworldly big. He is otherworldly looking. Like, the length is wild. He looks like a man among boys, and that's how they talked about Kareem. That's how they talked about Wilt in their era against these guys. And I just never thought I'd see something like that, especially from a big man where the game is shifted. But it's wild. Yeah, I just have it in. Basically, I said it with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, that OKC was going to play their game 48 minutes. Can the Spurs outlast them? And they did the whole way. But the minutes where Wemby was off, they just looked a little starstruck by OKC, and the pressure got turned up a little bit. There was a couple of times where OKC would put on a run, and they would be like, is this where they go? That Shea would check back in and was like, is Shea going to hit 4 mid-range jumpers, and then just their defense is going to keep them in it? And then Wemby checked back in. He has the stop on Chet where Chet pumps at the 3-point line, dribbles, tries to cross, Wemby's with him the whole way, and then he bumps into him trying to get the extra space, and Wemby stays with him the whole way and packs his shot back in his face. And I'm not a Chet hater. I'm very much not. I very much realize what he means to this OKC team and what the flexibility that he allows them to play with. He allows them to be another wing on offense that can shoot, can dribble, drive, and then on defense he's the elite backline defense. But Chet, I mean, Wemby clearly does not like the guy. And when he blocked Chet, I got excited for Wemby because Wemby's probably my favorite player in the league. I mean, I'm gonna start naming off guys, but I think Wemby's up there. I think Tyrese Maxey's up there. I think Cooper Flagg's up there at this point for me. I love Dylan Harper. I haven't got to talk about the wings yet because they have their great nicknames that come along with the Spurs team. They're going to be so much fun to watch, and I didn't think that they'd be this good this fast. But some of the Spurs nicknames that are just like my favorite, French Vanilla, Wemby and Cornette when they're out on the court together. That's pretty solid. Love Area 51, Castle to Wemby. Castle wears 5, Wemby wears 1, Area 51. The Slash Brothers. These are the guys to talk about. Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle. Both of them, even though Harper 3 for 13 from this game, 1 for 5 from 3, it did not feel like that. He felt like he was putting just as much pressure as Castle and Fox and Vassell. Between the four of them on the wing, they just create shots for this offense. And between Cornette, Wembanyama picking up the extra misses and being defensive presences, I don't know. Stephon Castle, I didn't have Stephon Castle on my 2028 Olympic team, and he was just honorable mention. He might need to be on there because he's literally a 6'6" Ja Morant is what I'm seeing people say Ja Morant, and I kind of see it. The slow steps, the gathers, the collects, the physicality going into guys is just unreal. He is dynamic, and then the jump shot didn't look bad. They tried to gap him a couple of times, and he would just catch it in on the high key and would just shoot it from there. And I was like, okay, if Stephon Castle's got that in his game too. De'Aaron Fox saw Trey Kirby from No Dunks talk about it, and he plays like he's always on his toes. He doesn't feel like his heels ever touch the ground, and it's so true. He's so light on his feet. He's always on his tippy toes. He's always just moving around guys, and the jump shot looks real good for Fox. I can't believe that they have all these guards together, and then Wembanyama is the first time the 3 guards and Wembanyama played in a game this year, I think ever. Well, obviously this year because Harper's a rookie. Some of the other stuff from this game, Wemby with the big flex on Kaysen Wallace after Kaysen just tries to wrap him up instead of giving him easy points. Wemby big shrug, and giving a face to Kaysen, and Kaysen kind of just laughs it off. But like, you can only laugh it off so many times before this team starts I think Kaysen can laugh it off because they hadn't lost to OKC yet. You've lost to OKC now. You can't just laugh off that. You gotta give something a little bit back. Caruso, with 4 minutes left, they subbed him out after he felt like the only guy who was doing anything defensively and felt like the most active out there between the two teams, especially. And then they subbed him out with 4 minutes left. And I forget the exact possession, but San Antonio scores like pretty easily. And I was like, damn, you just subbed Caruso out so you could go back to, I believe you could go back to the 5-man lineup of Hartenstein, Holmgren, Dort, Williams, Gilgeous-Alexander. And I'm just like, I just don't know if that's your best lineup right now, especially with the way J-Dub was playing. But like that's such a hard thing to say. J-Dub 5 for 16 from the field, 17 points, minus 18 from the game. Caruso was a plus 22. Like, that's the guy. Chet was plus 18. Wow. They did stagger a lot of Chet Wemby minutes. They did not want them playing at the same time. Chet does not guard Wemby in these matchups. They will throw a smaller guy at Wemby before they'll go to Chet. I don't think that's the wrong decision. I just don't. You would like to think Chet could get a stop against Wemby, but apparently not. They just don't trust him like that. AJ Mitchell was out there for a little bit, but he was just fine. Aaron Wiggins over 12 minutes. It's just a rough one. Lou Dort, a bad one, 1 for 6 from 3. They just they didn't hit threes, and this can be the problem with OKC. This is how they lose games. They don't hit threes. Whoa. Yeah, it could be the problem with them. They just don't hit threes. They sub Caruso back in after that little stretch. I think they sub him in with like maybe 30 seconds later. It's like 3 minutes left. They run this baseline out of bounds play for Wemby, and it's awesome. I forget who the inbounder is at this point, but Wemby's kind of slow playing it. They have J-Dub on him. He kind of just like muscles up on him, and then as soon as the ball gets slapped from the inbound, he bursts into J-Dub, jumps over the top, dunk off the baseline out of bounds play. What a lob pass, and it's the same one that he got Draymond on earlier this year, and then yelled in his face, and him and Draymond got into it. Same thing here. Wemby is about it, and he wants to take down this OKC team. He does not like this team, and he kind of feels like the average basketball fan at this point, where the average basketball fan is kind of against OKC because of how good they've looked this early in the year, and the fact that they may have a future draft pick, and they just built this team. And a little bit is how they play. They push the refs. They are not going to call everything. This team is physical defensively. They are handsy. Caruso can never talk to a ref again about like wanting calls because his hands are all over everybody. God, there's discourse going around about when Wemby caught it at the nail and Caruso's on him, and he gets him and he swipes down, or he swipes up at the ball once, and then he loosens, and it might be a foul right there too. He has his hands on Wemby's hip when he does that. Wemby recollects it midair, gets swiped again, probably hits his hand, and then Wemby sinks it while he's still collecting the shot midair. I'm trying to use my coffee cup. And so he's right here. It gets loose, and then he recollects, goes back up for the jump shot, and then sinks it, or rolls. It rolls in. You guys just can't stop the guy. He's the best player in the world at this point. His comments are super interesting. I mean, do I have anything about this game before I get into Wemby's comments? They use Wemby as the press break, which is so interesting because as soon as he tried to bring double, he just saw over the double and they broke it immediately. I just thought that was interesting. Like, I think we can see that in the future when teams try and press this team. Wemby he couldn't dribble against this OKC team, and I don't think he'll be able to for as long as these teams match up. Even in transition, Wemby would put the ball down once, and I'd be like, you got to get rid of it because Kaysen, Caruso, someone with good hands is coming to try and steal this out of your hand. The next thing I have is I think I would genuinely be sad for Wemby if the Knicks were to beat the Spurs in the actual finals. That's how much I like this dude. If we get to that point and the Knicks win a championship, I will be incredibly happy if the Knicks win a championship. I will throw it in everyone's face. I will be unbearable to listen to. I've said this for years at this point. A team that hasn't won since 1972, I'm going to get my licks in. I say that as I'm wearing a New York Giants hoodie. I will get my licks in if the Knicks win a championship. But if they had to beat the Spurs to get there and it hurts Vic's legacy, that would hurt my soul a little bit. Like, I love this dude so much. I mean, it's the stuff he talks about Vegas. It's the training with the Shaolin monks. It's the class consciousness that he brings with him. There's something about that guy that I really enjoy. My last note was love the Amazon broadcast. It's so good. I hate that I have to give any props to any Jeff Bezos organization, but Taylor Rooks is great on the pregame. Blake Griffin, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Udonis Haslem are all great on the pregame. Stan Van Gundy and Dwayne Wade were hitting on the broadcast. They were great, super enjoyable to listen to. The only thing I didn't like about this game was the 30 minutes it took to get through the last minute of the game with the fouling up three, which is the right play. You're supposed to foul up three. It's the most strategically logical way to close out a game and win a game. I get it. It's frustrating to watch from times. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this game in particular. The other in-season tournament game to talk about was the New York Knicks versus the Orlando Magic. And the Orlando Magic coming back. This is their first time playing the Knicks without Franz after they lost Franz in the last time these two met up. Paulo back for this one. Jalen Suggs went off in the first half, and then he gets a knee to his thigh and just clearly wasn't the same the rest of this game. Jalen Brunson goes off for 40. Karl Anthony Towns is 28 points, only misses 2 shots, no turnovers. OG Anunoby is OG Anunoby. The Knicks play without Deuce McBride, and they handled the Orlando Magic like pretty handily. I know the score says it's a little bit closer, but they handled them pretty handedly. I didn't really feel like Orlando had a shot in this at all, even when Suggs was going off. Bane and Banchero just super passive in the first half. I think it got to the end of the first quarter and neither of them had taken a shot yet. And I was just like, I mean, as a Knicks fan, if that means more Anthony Black threes, if that means more Jalen Suggs threes, if that means more Wendell Carter, Tristan Da Silva, or Jonathan Isaac, I'm fine with that. Like, let those guys shoot it. I would rather Desmond Bane be a passer and Banchero be a passer than a shooter. They kind of had him all night. Brunson drops Anthony Black. That's the highlight of the night, I think. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about in-season tournament games. I probably won't make a video for the winner of Spurs Knicks. Not because I'm scared. Don't say that. It's not because I'm scared the Knicks are going to lose and I have to like bask in Wemby gloriness. That's not why. It's honestly because I just don't super care. I only care about this game because it looks like a future classic. Like OKC and San Antonio meet up in the playoffs either this year, next year, or the year after with these cores. Wemby doesn't like these dudes. And I think the Thunder need to have a little bit of, we don't like those guys either. Like Shea, even in his postgame, is like, yeah, it could be the start of something. Wemby already started it. You need to be about it now. That's all I have to say about in-season tournament. I do just want to talk about OKC's dominance, though. The 24-1 run, the 16-game winning streak. Do they have another big win streak in their system? I think absolutely. I don't think that this game should deteriorate. Like, as much as I'm saying that, like, OKC needs a little fire, they need a little fire for when they go against the Spurs. Every other team, they just need to do the same thing. Keep hand checking. Legal hand checking. There is legal hand checking. They're not going to call every penalty. This team puts as much pressure on the referees as any team in the league, offensively and defensively. Offensively with Shea, he gets to the line so much. Only got to the line 4 times against the Spurs. So that's something. But yeah, it felt like they had Shea a little locked up in this game. He goes 1 for 7 from 3. Not locked up. Shea had 29, but he only got to the line 4 times. So he had to make 12 shots to get there. And that's normally not the formula for OKC. But he'd been dominant. He's not playing fourth quarters because they're blowing these teams out with their wicked defense. They're pressing. I'm surprised they didn't press the Spurs more. They seemed a little wearful of, at least not Fox. I wouldn't press Fox. Maybe Castle at this point, I wouldn't. He feels good enough too, but he's young enough where put as much pressure on him and Harper as you can. But yeah, they pressure teams. They play size. They play small. They play big. Jalen Williams is just getting back in the fold. Like, there's guys on this team who aren't clocking minutes. Like Ousmane Deng, Kenrich Williams. This is a deep team and they put hands all over these teams, and they get so many steals, and they run in transition. They wear teams down. Once this team clicks again, I'm not saying that they didn't click against the Spurs team, but once they are back in the fold of the regular season where they can just go out and suffocate these worst teams, we could see another big win streak, and I would still put money on them going for the record. I know it says 24-2 now. That takes the pace down from, I think, like 77-5 to maybe like 74-8. Whatever I think it's 74-8 is the exact number. I'd still put money on them to do that. I think it's still within their cards, and I think that this is the right consistent. If a team is going to do it, I think this is going to be it. They're elite, but I think they just showed that one guy can get the better of them, and that one guy is Victor Wembanyama. It also, I mean, it is kind of similar to how the Nuggets went 7 games with them last year. Is it's not a weak or mute point of this OKC roster is not the size. They still have Hartenstein, they still have Holmgren, they have Jalen Williams. These are good. These are good bigs, but when you go up against cream of the crop guys like Wemby and Jokic at this point, I don't know. I don't know who can guard those guys in general, but it doesn't feel like OKC has a set answer. Hartenstein only 20 minutes, -7 in this game against San Antonio. Maybe you'd like to see more of him because of the effort that he brings, but they don't really put the bigs on Wembanyama anyways. So I don't know, something to see going forward. They play each other right before Christmas and then I think on Christmas. So they have 2 more games coming up real soon, and so that should be must-watch TV between these two going at it back and forth. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the in-season tournament. OKC dominance. Yeah, let's get into the next topic. The next topic I want to get into, and I've been a little late to the game, even though I'm pretty well versed on the topic at this point. I almost made a video about it in the off season. There's Giannis trades, and I feel like I haven't done any Giannis trade stuff at all on the pod, because it honestly feels like it's not going to happen this year. I can't believe that he tried to do this. I'm all in for one more year with the Bucks instead of being just honest with them last offseason that, hey, if you can't build a real contender around me, let's split ways. I respect him for trying to show graces to the organization at least, but it's put them in a shitty spot. They stretch and waive Dame. That's $20 million on their books for the next 5 years just so they can sign Miles Turner, which is another 4-year contract at $30+ million a year. That's $50 million essentially for Miles Turner a year on the team's payroll. I would have never done that. But it's not like I mean, Ryan Rollins looks good. You could be happy if you're the Bucks for that, but you got to be talking OKC. I'm sorry, you got to be talking Giannis trades, and the teams that we just talked about, Oklahoma City and the Spurs, are 2 teams that could make it happen. But I feel like at this point, we just saw both of these teams play without Giannis, and they both feel like legit title contenders at this very moment. OKC obviously won it all last year, but San Antonio taking them down last night and showing that there is a way to do it. I think you should be a little. You could say they're contenders at this point, at least to beat OKC, which means something. If you can beat OKC, you're a title contender. That's where I land on that. But the team that's been the most had the most rumors is another team in the in-season tournament, and that's the New York Knicks. That sounds like it's Giannis's preferred destination, and me, if we're talking me as a Knicks fan or me as a realist, I think the trade happens in the offseason if the Knicks lose before the finals. I think if they make it to the finals, they run their squad back. Giannis forcing his way to the Knicks would feel like Carmelo all over again, where we have to give up so much stuff that we can't even compete. We can't even compete basically anymore after the trade because we'd be giving up so many pieces. Like, to really do this, you would have to give up, I believe, one of OG or Cat, probably Deuce McBride. Mitchell Robinson is somewhere in like, these are all names that need to be a part of this deal just so you can keep Jalen, Mikhail, Josh around and then add Giannis. I'm out on it as a Knicks fan. They have a good mojo going. Mike Brown feels like he's kind of figuring out this team. It feels like Cat's figuring out what his team is. I could regret this immediately in the playoffs, and we could lose in the finals. We could lose to another team. If we lose to another team in the East, make this trade immediately, blow up the team, honestly. But I just don't see it happening for the Knicks, at least not during the regular season. I think every team in the regular season that's interested in Giannis should be interested in them because they can be contenders with him on the roster. And all these teams are trying to compete this year, I feel like. I don't feel like there's a team trying to trade for Giannis that isn't trying to compete this year, except for maybe one, which I would say Miami. I don't think Miami's trying to compete for a title this year. I think they're trying to be competitive. I would be scared of Miami if Miami got Giannis. They have pieces to move there. It would be like LeBron going to Miami and then teaming up with someone. They would have to do some sort of maneuvering, either picking one of Bam or Hero. You could sell me either way. You could sell me trading out Bam because you're going to have Giannis. It'd be clunky. You could sell me that taking out Hero and then you still re-sign Norman Powell. Like you could convince me either way for them. Trying to think of some other teams that are in on Giannis. Timberwolves, there's something there with them possibly wanting to sell high on Randall and DiVincenzo, Gobert, Naz Reid, some collection of talent to pair Anthony Edwards and Giannis up is super interesting for the long term and for now. I don't know why I would do that if I was the Bucks. A lot of these teams don't make sense for the Bucks. Like, what would the Heat be sending the Bucks that make the Bucks go, whoa, let's go? The Bucks should want their own picks. They should want to deal with Atlanta. Atlanta's the team that I would want to make a deal with if I was the Bucks. I would want the Jalen Johnson package. I think that's off the table at this point for Atlanta. I don't think that Atlanta would go anywhere near a Giannis for Jalen Johnson trade package. I think if you wanted to do Trae Young in the picks, I think Atlanta would talk. Absolutely. But giving up the core of Daniels, Reese Hachey, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, I wouldn't go there yet if I was Atlanta, especially giving up the picks that you just received that make you dangerous, possibly for a younger star. Like, the rumor is that teams are weary of giving Giannis another extension for 4 more years, $300 million for a guy this is back-to-back years with a calf strain. He's been injured in the playoffs. The game is built on athleticism. It doesn't look promising. Like it has the makings of a guy that would wear down over time. You say the same thing about LeBron, but LeBron, it was a little different at this point in his career at 31. I mean, where's LeBron at 31? Is this end of Miami, back to Cleveland? I think is where back to Cleveland. I mean, yeah, Giannis could age like that, but I think the injuries is a little scary. I don't understand why Minnesota would try and do all that. And then you get to a little bit of the next topic for me, but the Spurs, the Rockets trying to make a Kevin Durant trade. The Spurs, at this point, I don't feel comfortable dealing Harper or Castle. That's where I'm at with this team. You can't trade either of those guys. Those guys are legit franchise guards, and you can't trade either of them for the possibility of Giannis's future, even though it's him and Wemby next to each other. What if one of those guys is hurt? Like, you cannot risk it. I think you need the collection of talent, especially the way the NBA is going. Teams don't do it with the two top stars. You have to build out an entire roster at this point. That being said, I don't think there's a trade where Milwaukee is happy. Unless they actually send him to the Hawks, they get all their own picks back and they get Jalen Johnson. I don't see how Milwaukee walks away with a trade that they like. And it's kind of going to be fan servicey for Giannis at this point, wherever it goes. I think they're going to do right by him, and I think it'll be New York in the offseason, if I had to guess. That's pretty much all I have to say about Giannis. There's not a ton to say because I don't think anything's really going to happen. Kind of laying out the teams, but I don't even want to hear a Lakers rumor. I don't think they should. I don't know what the only Lakers trade I would do if I were them would be sending LeBron out, and they're not going to do that midseason. The Giannis, another calf strain. We're gonna be seeing this guy not suit up for the Bucks. We're gonna see the Bucks lose a ton of games because their roster absolutely blows. And we're just gonna see them kind of flail without Giannis until they. I don't think a trade's happening. That's pretty much where I'm gonna end the Giannis conversation there. The next topic that I want to get into is the trio of Texas teams that appear to be future contenders, if already not contenders, in this league. We've done a lot of Spurs talk today. We've done a lot of Castle, a lot of Harper, a lot of Wembanyama, Fox. And there's more stuff coming. Carter Bryant hasn't played much for them. that team is really set. We did a lot of Spurs talk in the first half. Houston is playing Houston Rockets basketball, and it's awesome. Even without Fred VanVleet, Reed Shepherd has looked unbelievable as their engine. It's still Kevin Durant. They play with so much size. They are a problem for OKC as well, I think, because of the size that they play with. The handle is still scary, but the future of these Texas teams is disgusting when you account that Texas has a future of Reed Shepherd, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün, and that's not even counting that they have a star number one in KD. They have elite role players like Steven Adams, Clint Capella, Josh Okogie. Still haven't seen Dorian Finney-Smith yet this year. We'll see him at some point, and he'll play big minutes for them, but this Houston Rockets team is a legit contender this year. They might be the second or the third best team with maybe they're a top 4 team, I think, in the West. It's the Spurs might have just jumped into that mix, but I think it's the Nuggets, OKC, Houston, San Antonio. So like that's got to be your top 4 in the West. Houston is legit, and everyone should be scared of how they play basketball and how they wear teams down the stretch. Şengün is on another level of offense. Like, I don't see this team ever making a Giannis trade either, because you would be trading away either Şengün or Thompson. And I don't feel comfortable doing that in the same way that I wouldn't feel comfortable dealing Harper or Castle at this point. I feel comfortable running this team with Kevin Durant all the way to deep in the playoffs. You kind of lose me a little bit. They have tons of picks too. They have Suns picks in the future that they could move around, and I hate to be the guy to like, if you put this guy here, I don't know how to make the money work, but there is a way to make money work. If Kyrie Irving were to join this team and leave another Texas team to rejoin Kevin Durant, this roster is definitely fucking scary. They're scary right now. You can be scared about Reed Shepherd in the playoffs. You can be scared about Amen in the playoffs, the handle, the shot making, and all that. I still really like this Houston team, but if they were to get a point guard, like I think it'd be Fred VanVleet's money. Maybe it's Tari Eason's money because Tari Eason's also hurt. But if you were to make a deal like that, and I think that's something that that Dallas would be into. Which, moving over to Dallas, apparently they're not interested in trading AD, and they're the other team I want to talk about, in the last team I want to talk about in the Texas trio, because Cooper Flagg is an absolute menace. And this team, if they really want to put together, I mean, they do lose Lively for the season. That obviously blows. Derek Lively is so good when he's out there for this team. But if they want to actually run the AD, Flagg, Kyrie team with all these legit role players around them that we talked about in the Nico Harrison video, but Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, Max Christie, Brandon Williams, Nembhard, these are all legit role players and can play on at least a playoff team. I think that if you had the big three of Flagg, Davis, and Kyrie at the start of the year, they would be a top 6 seed. I genuinely believe that they would be a top 6 seed in the West. Maybe a play-in team. The West is stacked. We'll just leave it there. But these Texas teams look like they're going to be a big problem for the rest of the league for maybe the next 5 to 6 years. I think the team with the shortest window is probably Houston, but that's only because of Kevin Durant. Like, I could definitely see a world where it's Kevin Durant these next 2 years, and then it's Giannis after that. Like, they kind of plug and fill a hole. I'm trying to think of another team that did that at some point, where they had a star player, and then they switch him out for another star player, and it kind of keeps the core together. In a way, this is not what, like, I'm not a one-to-one comparison. Almost like how when KD left the Warriors, they were able to recoup by eventually getting Wiggins in there and like getting other pieces that kind of still fit the roster. I see that, but like one for one, like KD retires 1 year and then it's Giannis the next year because he's not able to work out a trade with the Bucks this year or next year and he hits free agency. Something like that, or he gets his extension. these teams in Texas are scary. I just wanted on the books that I believe in all three of these teams, and they're going to collide, and there's going to be hopefully a cool in-state rivalry between the three of them, and then it's a little Midwest. It still stays Midwest with OKC's dominance, and then Denver will just never not be good as long as Jokic is out there. Topic that I want to get to in for sports in this one. Last sports topic. It's a little dead news at this point, but CP3 had been let go by the Los Angeles Clippers, and the season from hell for the Los Angeles Clippers continues. And the only guy who felt like it was not okay to fall into deeper pits of hell, Chris Paul, was cut or sent home. Whatever you want to say. He's no longer with the team because he tried to set some shit straight. And I felt a type of way about this when it happened, when the news dropped, and I was like, yeah, CP3 definitely rubbing heads. He was not getting along with Clippers. I originally assumed like Clippers teammates, like him and Harden weren't about it. Kawhi's not a very reciprocal guy to the way I imagine Chris Paul gets on guys. This team is soft. I'm just going to call it like that. I think Chris Paul's an ultimate winner, even though he's never got the big one. Look at every team he's been on. He's made that team better. I actually thoroughly enjoy Chris Paul, his personality, the way he talks about the game. I respect his union leadership over time. I respect a lot of things about Chris Paul. And the stories that came out about this is that him and Ty Lue didn't talk for weeks. He had problems with the upper management. And you know what? Hell yeah, Chris. Push up against these guys. You are 41 years old. Tell these guys that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Because they clearly don't. Because they're about to hand over a top 5 pick to OKC after this abysmal fucking start that they've gotten. Thinking that they could get all these old players together. It had Bradley Beal into the mix. And trade Norman Powell away for legitimately nothing. Like John Collins, a big who's going to come off your bench, who sounds good in theory, but hasn't played good basketball since he was on the Atlanta Hawks and they went to the conference finals, where he looked like a completely different player than the rest of his career. He still could have like a PJ Washington-esque like build and prototype, I think, but it's not there. Zubac, get out. Zubac, whatever you can do, get out. Please, someone trade for Zubac so he doesn't have to stay on this god-awful team. Ironically, he would be awesome on the Lakers, but I'm gonna leave that there. But I went back and rewatched. Whoa, caught my pen. I went back and rewatched the Old Man in the 3 episode, JJ Redick's old podcast with Chris Paul, and talking about his style, about how JJ's been so open about like how he would want to fight Chris Paul all the time because of the way he would talk to his teammates and the way he antagonized. I'm going to use the word antagonize. The way he would antagonize his teammates to be better. And that when Chris finally saw that guys cared, he would lay off them. Like he talks about with JJ, they talk about doing this drill where they have to run 17s, which you have to do. It's a certain basketball. It's a sprint, but you had to do it in under a certain amount of seconds. And if the whole team did it under that certain amount of seconds, they would have to do one less. They were supposed to do 6. If they got it on the 5th one, they wouldn't have to do the 6th. They get it on the 5th one, and they're getting ready to like, oh, we're done. JJ says, we're not going to fucking cheat ourselves. And that's when Chris Paul knew JJ Redick was about it, and then stopped getting on his shit. James Harden doesn't feel like the guy that's going to do the extra sprint. Kawhi doesn't feel like the guy that's going to do the extra sprint at this point. Bradley Beal doesn't feel like the guy that's going to do the extra sprint at this point. Good for Chris Paul that he got out of there. I would love if he got another shot with another team to finish out the season, because I do feel like it's a farewell. He deserves a farewell, and I feel like Chris Paul's a guy that we're going to respect a lot more when he's outside of the league and just look at the teams that he was on. Like, he's a top 3 MVP finisher with New Orleans, a franchise who still sucks, who's still in despair. He becomes almost a Laker, and who knows what could happen if he plays with Kobe, and that Lakers trade goes down. But he goes to the Clippers and makes the Clippers actually decent and makes them respectable. with him and Blake and DeAndre, like makes them a respectable top end playoff team year after year. And then to Houston, they almost dethroned the Warriors. They missed 27 straight threes, and then they crumble once Chris Paul gets hurt. Daryl Morey tries to maximize that Houston Rockets team and flips him for Russell Westbrook with what another great trade OKC makes, where they get Chris Paul back in picks, and he brings that team with Dennis Schroeder and a young Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all the way to the playoffs, and he just continues to do that everywhere he went. And the next stop was Phoenix, where they go all the way to the finals, and they almost take down the Bucks. They're up 2-0. I just want to give some respect to Chris Paul because he definitely deserves it at this point. Not much else to say. I hope he gets his flowers. I would love if the team picked him up. Honestly, the team that I would want him to go to is the team of this episode. Is the San Antonio Spurs, because he was there last year. He's a big part of obviously Stephon Castle's development. I would love if he was a part of Dylan Harper's development if I was them. I just don't think there's really a roster spot for them at this point because they want to compete. But Chris Paul at their in-season tournament game. So that's pretty cool. That's going to do it for sports, unless I have anything else. Yeah, OKC domination. Spurs take them down in the in-season tournament. It was really a palate cleanse for the NBA. I think the Spurs taking them down. I feel like we had too much bad OKC taste in our mouth from them just waxing teams. They beat the Suns by 50 the other day, and it was done early. Needed a palate cleanse of a game, and that's definitely what the San Antonio Spurs brought. That's going to do it for sports. Last night, this is a little bit of a transition. Last night, I got some sad news, or the world got some sad news that Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead, or had passed on due to an unfortunate situation with their son who allegedly murdered them. Incredibly sad. I want to do a little bit of a sec on Rob Reiner and what Rob Reiner means to me as a person. That's obviously a legendary career. I mean, we're talking about director of When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, Misery, Flipped, A Few Good Men, Spinal Tap, Bucket List. He plays Jordan Belfort's dad in The Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, plays Jess's dad in New Girl, which may be his best role because he basically plays himself. Special person, special filmmaker, special writer. Talking When Harry Met Sally, he wrote because of his wife, and it's the monologue that gets given on New Year's and When Harry Met Sally. I think about a lot, and it makes me I listen to the monologue that gets given. I love you when you get cold when it's 71 degrees out. I love it takes you an hour and a half to order a sandwich. I love the crinkle between your eyebrows when you're looking at me. I'm crazy. And when you meet the person you want to have the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life with to start right now. It's a beautiful monologue. It's one of the greatest scenes of all time. Rest in peace, Rob Reiner. The Princess Bride is maybe my favorite movie of all time. I'm genuinely sad by the passing of Rob Reiner, a great soul. And I just want to say that before I go back to the movies, the comments that Donald Trump made about the passing of Rob Reiner, completely insensitive. Go fuck yourself. Truly. Yeah, go fuck yourself. A Few Good Men, a movie that Donald Trump cannot relate to in the slightest because it's people holding up our military-industrial complex and holding a mirror to it and showing you don't have the right to choose who lives and dies. Thank you, Rob Reiner. Thank you, Robert. Stand By Me, incredible. Flipped. I love Flipped. Flipped is a great movie. I don't have much to say about Rob Reiner. I hope that he rests in peace and is remembered as fondly as I remember Rob Reiner. I didn't do show and tell in the last one. Last one was kind of a special episode. I want to do show and tell today. I have new pickup to the vinyl collection, Grace by Jeff Buckley. I watched the Jeff Buckley documentary maybe a month or two ago, and I kind of can't stop thinking about it. This album means so much to me. It means so much to so many people, and it's really caught traction, and I'm happy that it has. This album's fucking unbelievable. Rest in peace to Jeff Buckley, a truly pure, talented soul. Got a little somber at the end of today. I was gonna pull out the next album for Show and Tell, but it's also another sad one. I might as well. Show and Tell Part 2. Little Mac. That's going to do it for Show and Tell. Thank you guys for watching this episode of The Drop Step. Going over, just fully recap. Spurs dominate OKC in the in-season tournament. OKC dominance throughout the regular season. Giannis trades, the Texas trio, CP3 departure, Rob Reiner, and Show and Tell. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The Drop Step, and I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. If I don't see you before then, I really hope I do. Happy holidays. Celebrate whatever the fuck you want. Christmas is kind of whatever for me. The actual holiday itself. I'm happy that I'll get to see my cousins and my family. Shout out to you guys. Enjoy the season. Enjoy the cold. Enjoy the rain. Rest in peace, Rob Reiner. Have a great night.